the deportation of the Windrush generation, the young children who came here with their parents, or the Grenfell tragedy, where a tower which was largely populated by people from migrant communities, people of color, black and Asian migrants, which went up in flames and several people died. Do you think there's an awareness that these tragedies and misdemeanors have to be situated in the history of empire and slavery?
It's such an emotive subject. So many thoughts flood to mind when you speak about that. I actually wrote about this with regards to Grenfell. The interesting thing, when you go on the Grenfell Tower Wikipedia page, the first name that comes up on that page is Lord Francis Grenfell, who was a colonial soldier. But you go on Lord Francis Grenfell's Wikipedia, nothing's mentioned about the tower. Right. The victims of the tragedy don't have their individual Wikipedia entrance, right? So we have this weird situation in which everything that is part of our story as people coming from colonial or former colonies, everything kind of ties back to that history, but the proponents of that history, the custodians of that history, can afford to be selective in how much they acknowledge.
In terms of this kind of cross-pollination that you've talked about, your education at Cambridge and the rap and the poetry that you take out into communities, who is it aimed at and who is listening?
So it's interesting. Because I've had, such a diverse range of experiences, and I'm able to address different audiences from a place of authenticity, I think a lot of different kinds of people afford me their attention. I would say I have extensive conversations with circles that I would deem the intelligentsia, places like this, with audiences such as yourselves. It's easy for me to talk about big ideas with people, but at the same time, I have a constant presence on National Prison Radio. I do prison workshops in which, again, I'm able to communicate very big ideas to people that may not have had the time or exposure to read about these in books and discuss these and explore these in academic spaces. That's been a big education for me. Because ultimately, we all want the same things. We want the same validation and security. And it's a position of privilege, most definitely.
I think it would be wrong to not note that I teach at a privileged institution. I teach very many privileged young people. I get platforms to speak on because I have the seal of the University of Cambridge behind me, and that confers advantages. But I also feel that it is part of my morality, as it were, not to become sucked into the narratives that Cambridge produces. To say, I have my own thinking, I have my own critical heritage, I come bearing knowledge from other parts of the world, I draw on the great black and Asian thinkers of the last several centuries, and it is my job to deploy that knowledge to critically interrogate the institution that I'm part of, even as I draw on what it enables me to do, which is to have platforms to write and think and write books and teach people.